Have you ever achieved something but felt like you didn't deserve it? Or try to cut off certain habits or move away from a different lifestyle, but was afraid of people thinking that you're a fraud? If so, you might be experiencing imposter syndrome. Many people feel it, even successful people. So today we're going to be breaking down why you feel imposter syndrome and, more importantly, how to overcome it. Now let's get on with the video. So first, what we're going to be talking about is what is imposter syndrome, right? It's basically when someone doubts their accomplishments and feels like a fraud. You may feel like your success is undeserved, or that people might eventually figure out that you aren't as capable as you appear to be, even if you have the evidence showing that you are capable. So imposter syndrome is actually really common in high achievers. Not only high achievers, but also creative people, students, entrepreneurs, and more. So why do we feel imposter syndrome, right? The reason why some people might experience imposter syndrome is because they set really high expectations for themselves. They may compare themselves to others, or they may feel like their success comes from luck rather than their own abilities. Maybe it's from a fear of failing and thinking that if you do so, people are going to call you a fraud, or people are going to think that you aren't as good as you seem to be. Maybe you're afraid of messing up and not upholding that perfect image. Or maybe just feeling like success doesn't count unless other people recognize it. Maybe in particular, if a lot of people recognize it. So if it's only a few people that are recognizing your success, you might downplay it. And sometimes social media can play a role in this as well. Sometimes it can create this environment where you compare yourself, or you may not feel as accomplished or successful as the other people that you see online. I know that I myself have even felt imposter syndrome when it came to creating this channel. I had felt like my life needed to be perfect before I could have permission to talk about certain topics. I've downplayed my accomplishments because I felt like I could have done better, and it was a bit hard, but we're going to talk about how to overcome imposter syndrome and what did I do to get through it. So the first thing you can do to try and overcome imposter syndrome, right, is when those feelings start to creep in, recognize them for what it is. It's a feeling, not a fact. Second thing is try to reframe your thoughts and remind yourself of your achievements and skills in the work that you've put in. I know I had felt like I wasn't perfect enough to start talking about self-improvement, but I try to remind myself that nobody is perfect, and the most successful YouTubers didn't start out perfect either, but they knew that they wanted to help people, and they knew that they could probably bring a different perspective, and so can I. Plus, I try to remind myself that it's not like I'm not going to get better over time. The more you do something, the more you try, the more you fail, the faster you get to that point that you want to be. And like I said, honestly, the most important thing is just that I started. The third thing you can do to try to overcome imposter syndrome is honestly to just try to not compare yourself to others. Remember that everybody's journey looks different. For some people, it may take time for them to reach their goals. Some might get there quicker. But remember that that doesn't discredit you from the work that you have done as well. The next thing that I would say is if you still feel imposter syndrome, talk about it. Hey, if it helps, talk about it with someone that you know will hype you up. Because sometimes we are our own worst critics. Sometimes we think that we aren't deserving, or like we just think that we aren't enough. And it's sucky because it's like you've probably done so much and you've accomplished so much, but I feel like sometimes we're always just worrying about the next thing and how to get to the next point, right? That we don't appreciate what it is that we're doing now. And we tend to forget that. The fifth tip I would suggest to overcome it is to keep a success journal. Write down your wins, big or small, to remind yourself of your progress. The next thing that I will say is, since imposter syndrome is usually common in high achievers, write down your strengths and your weaknesses and work towards improving your weaknesses while also reminding yourself of your strengths. So now for number 7. So with imposter syndrome, maybe you're afraid of people viewing you as a fraud, right? I want you to remind yourself to embrace failure. Like I said, It's human to mess up, and the more you embrace it, the more you won't have to worry about people viewing you as a failure or worrying about what other people think, because you know that it happens. But you also know that anytime you failed, you learn how to bounce back and keep moving forward. And for my last tip when it comes to overcoming imposter syndrome, if you feel like you're undeserving, or let's say maybe you're trying to live a different life and you start to feel like a fraud, sometimes you need to remind yourself that sometimes you need evidence to show that you are deserving, and remind yourself of it. So let's say maybe you used to party hard, right? And maybe drink a lot of alcohol and things like that. But that's not you anymore. That isn't aligned with who you are now. People keep associating you with that version, right? That version of you. You need to make actions that align yourself with your future self or with your current self, right? Rather than your past self. And remind yourself of those things that you did, like instead of going to a party or drinking alcohol and things like that, you decided to maybe read a book. And remind yourself of those things you did, because that counts as evidence as to who you really are. And honestly, just remember that growth comes with the discomfort. You are not faking anything, you are learning and evolving. So please remember that you are not a fraud. Remember that your success is real and you earned it and you deserve it. So I want to know if any of you guys have dealt with imposter syndrome. And if so, let me know down in the comments below, what did you do to overcome it? If this video helped you, please like and subscribe. And please share this video with anyone that you think needs to hear it. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.